Chapter 55-24. Backlash. Altar Master Deng saw that more and more people were being sent out, so he said to Manager Shi, "Manager Shi, the top 10 candidates have come out. You can release the rest of the candidates." Manager Shi said with a fake smile, "Okay, but before that, let me be blunt. The results of the first 4 candidates don't count." Altar Master Deng immediately frowned and said, "What did you say? The 4 of them must have cheated." The reason is very simple. There is not a single stain on their clothes. Even their hair is not messy. Clearly, they relied on some disgraceful means to pass the test, said Manager Shi with a sneer. Altar Master Deng thought that his temper was not bad, but he was also quite angry at Manager Shi's words. This was clearly a deliberate attempt to find fault with him. He really had nothing to say. At this moment, Yun Chujia's clear voice rang out. "Manager Shi, you were the one who brought the illusion sky banner here. You were also the one who suggested the assessment method. Not to mention that we don't have the ability to do so. Even if we really did use some kind of method, it's because you didn't think it through. What does it have to do with us? How dare you? How dare you contradict me? Men, take him away and kill him." Manager Shi said viciously. He was just a pig. How dare he argue with him? He was really courting death. Dinger and the other 2 were so frightened that their faces turned ashen. They looked at Yun Chujia worriedly. However, there was no fear on Yun Chujia's face. She sneered and said, "I'm just stating the facts. Previously, you removed Ding Er's qualification for promotion for no reason. Now you want to remove our results. No matter how I look at it, it looks like you're taking revenge for your own personal vendetta. Let me give you a piece of advice. People do what they do, and the heavens are watching. Be careful not to suffer retribution." Manager Shi was so angry that his face turned red. He did not care about his status and immediately stood up from the judges' seats. He actually wanted to kill Yun Chujia with his own hands. The other judges looked at each other, but no one moved. On the other hand, anger appeared on Altar Master Deng's face. Just as he was about to stop him, the illusory sky banner that was floating in the air suddenly shot out a red light. The red light landed on Manager Shi's face, and almost instantly, Manager Shi turned into a pool of blood. At the same time, the candidates in the illusory sky banner were thrown to the ground, and the illusory sky banner fell to the ground. No one had expected such a turn of events. For a moment, no one made a sound, and there was dead silence. How did the illusory sky banner kill Manager Shi? Did he really suffer retribution? In the end, Altar Master Deng was the first to react. He walked to the ground and put the illusory sky banner into his storage ring. This was an item of the Myriad City Alliance. Naturally, it could not fall into the hands of outsiders. He was silent for a moment. He cupped his fists at the other judges and said, "Previously, Manager Shi used blood as a sacrificial seal. I reckon that he suffered a backlash. I will report this matter to the Alliance leader truthfully. If you all need to testify, please do not decline." The judges were clearly shocked by the strange scene in front of them. When they heard Altar Master Deng's words, they nodded their heads in agreement. They muttered in their hearts. No wonder there were rumors in the past that this illusory sky banner was very strange. Therefore, even though this thing was very extraordinary, it had always been left idle in the warehouse of the Myriad City Alliance. Manager, you had never thought that Manager Shi would die just like that. He was both afraid and unwilling. He took a step forward and said, "Doc Lord, although Manager Shi unfortunately died, his previous decision should not be abandoned. Cho Jio and the other 3 should have been disqualified. Furthermore, Cho Jio contradicted Manager Shi and should have been executed." Chapter 55-25. Passed the test. Altar Master Deng's face immediately darkened. Cho Jio and the other 3 have low cultivations. It's impossible for them to tamper with the illusion sky banner. Manager Shi's words are simply nonsense. Manager Yu was furious when he saw that Altar Master Deng was determined to protect Yun Chujio and the other 3. However, he could only swallow his anger no matter how dissatisfied he was. He was furious in his heart. So what if she passed the assessment? When she reached the Divine Enlightenment continent, there would still be plenty of opportunities to kill her. Altar Master Deng did not bother with Manager Yu anymore. Instead, he announced the names of those who passed the assessment. When the other members of Group 9 saw the beaming faces of Ding, Shenwu, and Wei Ba, their intestines turned green with regret. Especially Yu Qi. She was not too far away from Yun Chujio when she was standing outside the first level of the purgatory. However, in order to avoid being implicated by Yun Chujio, she deliberately hid in the crowd. Now, she naturally felt extremely regretful. However, what was the use of regretting? There was only a moment of opportunity. If she did not grasp it, she would lose it forever. Chen Shi did not expect Yun Chujio to actually pass the assessment. Her face could not help but look a little embarrassed. She was afraid that Yun Chujio would ridicule her. She lowered her eyebrows and looked down, trying her best to reduce her presence. Yun Chujio did not have the time to compete with her. She was now thinking about how to kill Manager Yu. She had never been a saint. Manager Yu had repeatedly targeted her. Was he still keeping her for the new year? However, those who had passed the assessment would soon follow the judges to the Divine Enlightenment continent. They did not have the time or opportunity to make a move. While Yun Chujio was pondering, the Goei Batsao in her dantian began to flatter and act cutely. Yun Chujio slightly raised her eyebrows, and then a faint smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Shen Wu happened to see her smile, and his heart immediately trembled. Cho Jio showed such a sinister smile again. Someone was going to be unlucky. Altar Master Deng said some more encouraging words, and then dismissed those who hadn't passed the assessment. He took Yun Chujio and the others to the Divine Enlightenment continent with the judges. After leaving the heavenly dock, many people looked back for a while, then turned around and continued on their way. From this moment on, they could be considered to have successfully ascended and officially become a member of the Divine Enlightenment continent. No one noticed that a small purple Goei Batsao slipped out of Yun Chujio's sleeve. If they wanted to go to the Divine Enlightenment continent, they had to go through the Immemorial River, and if they wanted to go through the Immemorial River, they had to go to Jinsha Bay, which was 200 miles away from Baili. Altar Master Deng looked at the time and said, "We have to get to Jinsha Bay before nightfall and spend the night there. We'll cross the river tomorrow morning." Everyone knew how dangerous the Immemorial River was at night, so they had no objections and immediately sped up. Yun Chujio found that everyone was walking and she was puzzled. Even if it was forbidden to fly here, it would be good to get a few spirit beasts to carry them. How stingy! In fact, she didn't know that the climate of the Eternal River was cold. The ordinary spirit beasts of the Divine Enlightenment continent couldn't withstand the cold at all. Moreover, even if they could catch some cold demon beasts, this place wasn't too far from the Golden Sand Bay, so there was no need to go through so much trouble. Before sunset, everyone rushed to the Golden Sand Bay. There were a few houses on the bank of the Golden Sand Bay, which were specially reserved for the people crossing the river to stay. The night was peaceful. The next morning, everyone got up and hurried. They had to pass through the hard ice area before sunset and reach the water area of the Eternal River. With the spirit ship, it would be much easier. After all, inside the spirit ship, they could resist the cold even at night. Chapter 55-26 Ice Shock. Just as everyone was hurrying on their way, Altar Master Deng received a message. His expression immediately became complicated. Someone beside him asked, "Altar Master Deng, what's wrong?" "Manager Yu was drunk last night. This morning he was found dead on his bed. He was strangled to death," Altar Master Deng said. On one hand, he felt very relieved because of Manager Yu's death. On the other hand, he felt a little relieved. Fortunately, he was not in ascending heaven dock. Otherwise, Manager Yu's death would inevitably be blamed on him. However, although Manager Yu's cultivation was not as good as his, it was not too bad. Even if he was drunk, he should not have been strangled so easily. Who did it? The Goei Batsao in Yun Chujio's dantian was showing off. Even if it could not speak, Yun Chujio knew that it was taking credit. Yun Chujio praised the Goei Batsao, but she also knew that the Goei Batsao was a fluke. If not for Manager Yu being so drunk, Goei Batsao might not have been able to find a chance to make a move in such a short time. Everyone discussed this matter for a while before putting it aside and rushing forward at the fastest speed. Although Jinsha Bay was much narrower than other rivers, it was still endless. Everyone did not dare to stop for fear of delaying the journey. It was better in the morning, but after the afternoon, when their physical strength had decreased, the speed of their journey had slowed down a lot, and they all looked tired. Although Yun Chujio was a pervert, she was also a little tired. She cursed in her heart. If only the hard ice had broken, then they could directly take the boat. Just as she was thinking about it, a deafening crack sounded. Everyone was shocked. They looked up and saw that a huge crack had appeared on the ice in the distance, and the crack was still expanding. Yun Chujio, this had nothing to do with her. She was just thinking about it. At this moment, cracking sounds came from all directions. The faces of Altar Master Deng and the others suddenly turned pale, and they even began to tremble. It was over. They were doomed. At this moment, countless cracks appeared on the ice surface around them, and they were rapidly expanding like a spider web. A judge from the Academy of 10 Directions said dejectedly, "An ice quake. We have encountered an ice quake that is rarely seen in 1,000 years. We won't be able to survive." The others also had despair on their faces. Even if they had heaven-defying abilities, they could only wait for death on this vast ice surface. Coincidentally, they were now in the middle of the ice surface. Whether it was to return or head to the river water area, it was too late because the ice surface would completely collapse soon. Yun Chujio frowned and walked to Altar Master Deng's side and asked, "Altar Master Deng, what is an ice quake?" Altar Master Deng's face was pale as he said, "An ice quake occurs extremely occasionally in the Eternal River. However, the time interval is not fixed, but it only happens once every 1,000 years. I didn't expect that we were so unlucky to encounter an ice tremors today." Yun Chujio was speechless. What was the use of talking about this? She should talk about what an ice tremors was. Fortunately, Altar Master Deng finally got to the point. "Do you see the cracks on the ice? Soon, these immemorial ice, which is usually very hard, will break. At that time, we will definitely die. And then..." Chapter 55:27. I have an idea. Yun Chujio took a deep breath. What will happen after the ice breaks? Will the ancient ice sink to the bottom of the water? If we sink to the bottom of the water, can we escape by boat? The judges of the Academy of 10 Directions glared at her. Sink to the bottom of the water? Escape by boat? Are you a pig's brain? Yun Chujio resisted the urge to fly into a rage and looked at Altar Master Deng. Fortunately, Altar Master Deng was more reliable. Although he looked panicked, he still explained, "After the surface of the ice breaks, it will not sink to the bottom of the water. Instead, it will roll violently in the water as if the water is boiling. Due to the impact of the ice, the spirit ship cannot maintain its balance and will be overturned when it enters the water. Moreover, the edges of the ice are very sharp. The spirit ship can't withstand it and will soon disintegrate." The judges of the 10 Directions Academy lamented, "Even the spirit ship can't withstand the edges of the ice. How can our bodies withstand it? Even if we are lucky enough to dive to the bottom, the temperature below is extremely terrifying. We will freeze to death. Not to mention, there were also many ferocious sea beasts. We are doomed." Yun Chujio's eyes flashed. Others might die, but she would not die. She could just dive to the bottom directly. She had water-repellent beads and small flames. She would neither drown nor freeze to death. As for the sea beasts, because she was confident, Yun Chujio was much calmer than the others. She was thinking if there was a way to help the others escape. It was not that she was overflowing with sympathy, but if she was the only one who survived, it would not be easy to explain. Everyone stood on the spot in despair. It was useless to run, they could only wait for death. Some took out their voice transmission talismans and told their friends and relatives about their last words. Some cried in despair, and some were still scared silly. Ding Shen Wu, and Wei Ba surrounded Yun Chujio, their faces filled with despair and fear. Ding saw that Yun Chujio's expression was relatively calm compared to the others, and her dark eyes kept rolling around. A glimmer of hope rose in her heart. "Team leader, Do you have a way to get us out of here? Ding Er asked with a trembling voice. Chen Shi heard Ding Er's words and said in a crazed manner, "She's going to get us out of here? Stop dreaming. We won't be able to survive. We're dead." Yun Chujio ignored Ding Er and Chen Shi. She continued to stare at the continuously cracking ice surface, her eyes changing unpredictably. Ding Er saw the situation and did not ask any more questions. He also ignored the crazy Chen Shi. He prayed in his heart that Yun Chujio could think of a way. Yun Chujio thought for a long time, but she couldn't think of a good idea. In the face of a natural disaster, the power of humans was too insignificant. Although she could give these people some waterproof beads, they were basically useless. The low temperature below would also freeze them to death. Therefore, it was best to stay on the spirit ship. It would be great if the spirit ship didn't capsize. Yun Chujio's eyes suddenly lit up. She had thought of a way. "Altar Master, I wonder how long this ice tremor will last?" Yun Chujio asked. 3 to 10 hours. When that time comes, the hard ice will reassemble. After Altar Master Deng finished speaking, he saw that Yun Chujio's face showed some joy. He could not help but sigh. Did this little girl think that she could endure it in a shorter time? They wouldn't be able to endure even an hour, let alone 3 to 10 hours. "Altar Master, I have an idea. Although it might not work, we can try," Yun Chujio said with a faint smile. Chapter 55:28. If there was no ice block. When the people around heard that Yun Chujio had a solution, they all focused their eyes on her. Even if many people did not believe that she had a solution, they still had a glimmer of hope in their hearts. What if she really did have a solution? If she could live, who would want to die? Altar Master Deng looked at Yun Chujio's smiling face and could not help but think of the day when the sea beasts besieged the city. A glimmer of hope rose in his heart and he asked with some urgency, "What solution?" "When the ice breaks, we will move to the spirit ship." Before Yun Chujio could finish her words, the judge from the Academy of 10 Directions said in a bad mood, "You are just trying to attract attention. I thought you had thought of a good idea. Even if you didn't say it, don't you think we know how to take a ship?" But what was the use? Although the spirit ship is strong, it can't withstand the sharp edges of the ice. At most, it will fall apart in an hour. Moreover, when the surface of the water tumbles and the ice hits it, the spirit ship will capsize in an instant. Shut the fuck up. If you want to live, then listen to me. If you don't want to listen, then get lost. Yun Chujio had endured him for a long time and finally flew into a rage. The judge's face was livid with anger. Just as he was about to fly into a rage, Altar Master Deng tried to smooth things over. "Superintendent Zhang, the situation is critical now. You should listen to Chojio first." Superintendent Zhang snorted coldly and did not say anything else. He did not have to fight with a little girl. It was just that this little girl really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He wanted to hear what she could do. Seeing that he was silent, Yun Chujio said, "There is only one thing we need to worry about when we move to the ship, and that is the impact of ice. If there is no ice impact, the spirit ship will not be damaged. If there is no ice impact, the spirit ship will not capsize. So we just need to ensure that the ice does not get close to the spirit ship." Superintendent Zhang could not help but say, "That's easy for you to say. The ice won't listen to you. If you say that you won't let them get close, then they won't get close?" Yun Chujio glanced at him. "They won't listen to me, but just think of a way to make them listen to me." Feasible, they had at least grasped a life-saving straw. Even Superintendent Zhang was delighted. He had completely. Superintendent Zhang curled his lips. He was about to speak when he heard Yun Chujio continue. "We will place some things around the spirit ship that are large in size, light in weight, and can float on the surface of the water. This will help us reduce the force of the impact of the ice. Also, don't forget that we still have spirit beasts. Although they are not enough to block the hard ice, it is still possible to slightly change the direction of the hard ice or slow down the impact. The ice shock will only last for 10 to 10 hours. As long as we work together, we can completely endure it." Everyone was stunned at first, then revealed a happy expression. Although they were not sure whether Yun Chujio's method was feasible, They had at least grasped a life-saving straw. Even Superintendent Zhang was delighted. He had completely forgotten that he was still targeting Yun Chujio just now. Everyone hurriedly searched the storage ring for things that met the conditions that Yun Chujio had mentioned. The more people, the more power. They really did find some things like light snow, wood, and giant calabashes. At this time, the ice surface around them had already begun to crack. There was a faint rumbling sound coming from under the ice surface. It was likely that it would soon start to churn. Yun Chujio's gaze deepened. We cannot wait passively. Otherwise, the hard ice beneath our feet would suddenly crack, and we might fall into the water if we are not careful for a moment. Dockmaster, later, when there is enough time to place the spirit ship on the surface of the water, you can release the spirit ship. It is safer for us to move it to the ship. Chapter 55-29 Added insult to injury. Altar Master Deng had no other choice at the moment. He gritted his teeth and decided to listen to Yun Chujio's arrangements. After a while, when the river ahead began to gush out, Altar Master Deng released the spirit ship, and everyone jumped onto the spirit ship. After everyone boarded the ship, they followed Yun Chujio's instructions and threw the floating objects near the spirit ship. Then, they paid close attention to the situation around them. The ice surface had not completely shattered yet, so it was not particularly dangerous at the moment. There was no situation like boiling water. Even so, everyone's heart was still in their throats as they stared at the ice surface with full vigilance. After a quarter of an hour, the entire water surface was like boiling water, setting off huge waves. The broken pieces of ice began to drift crazily, colliding with each other. Everyone's eardrums were buzzing with the sound of countless collisions. The spirit ship was thrown up and down by the waves. If it wasn't for the fact that this spirit ship was specially made, these waves would be enough to jolt it into pieces. At this time, there were already pieces of ice crashing towards the spirit ship. Yun Chujio shouted loudly, "What are you standing there for? Release the spirit beast and change the direction of the ice, quickly." The people who were already scared silly finally regained their senses and hurriedly released the spirit beast. Just as Yun Chujio had said, although the ice blocks were very big and their weight was also very shocking, they were still floating in the water, so the spirit beasts could still change the direction of the ice blocks. Although other than the water spirit roots, the other spirit beasts with spirit roots were limited in the water, but the more people there were, the more strength they had. From the looks of it, they could still hold on. Seeing that the situation was still under control, Yun Chujio did not release Goei Batsao. She stood on the deck and commanded everyone to protect the spirit ship from the impact of the ice. As time passed, everyone's nervous mood slightly relaxed. As long as they could hold on until the end of the ice tremor, although they might encounter extreme cold weather, it was still much better than the current situation. At this moment, Wu Yun suddenly appeared in the sky. The rolling momentum of the dark clouds was even more terrifying than the current wind and waves. Everyone's heart tightened. Could it be that it was going to rain? Ever since records began, it did not seem to rain in this ancient river. Why was it going to rain now? Why were all these unlucky things caught up by them? They were simply extremely unlucky. However, when they thought about it, although the rain was difficult to deal with, it was not to the point where their lives were in danger. If they were willing to let it rain, then so be it. They could only accept it. However, they soon realized that they were wrong. Extremely wrong. Because there was a hole in the sky, a bolt of purple heavenly lightning descended from the sky and headed straight for their spirit ship. The thick purple heavenly lightning shocked everyone. Purple heavenly lightning? Fortunately, Yun Chujio shouted from the side, "Spirit beast." Everyone subconsciously commanded the spirit beast to protect the spirit ship. Even so, the mast of the spirit ship was still broken. Everyone's heart immediately surged with endless despair. Originally, there was not much hope for survival, but now they were actually struck by lightning again. This was because they were afraid that they would not die. What sin did they commit to deserve such a punishment? At this moment, the deck was already filled with whales. Everyone's hearts were as dead as ash. It was over. They definitely wouldn't survive. No one noticed that at this moment, Yun Chujio's eyes were not filled with fear. Instead, they were filled with surprise and joy. Which big sister angel was kind-hearted? Chapter 55:30 Using one's body to attract the lightning. Hei Shinjio suppressed the joy in her heart and held back the tears of happiness in her eyes. She said, "Altar Master, there's no other way now. I'm trying to attract the heavenly lightning away. If I'm lucky enough to succeed, everyone will be saved." Altar Master Deng said in shock, "What? You want to attract the heavenly lightning away? Let's not talk about whether you can attract it away or not. Even if you can, you will definitely die. Do you want to die?" Yun Chujio bit her lips. Otherwise, she was afraid that she would laugh out loud. She simply lowered her head and said, "Altar Master, although we have only known each other for a short time, I have always treated you as my elder. If it wasn't for you, I might have already been killed by Manager Shi. Moreover, the people on the ship are also my classmates in a sense. All the judges are my teachers. If sacrificing my life can save everyone, I am willing. Time is of the essence. Don't say anything else. We will meet again in the next life." Hei Shinjio jumped off the spiritual boat and landed on a piece of floating ice. She pointed at the sky and cursed, "Listen up, you bastards. Come and chop me if you can. Otherwise, I will curse your ancestors. What's the point of chopping that broken boat? Come and chop me. If you admit defeat, you will be my grandsons. If you don't chop me to death today, you'll be the shame of the heavenly thunder world. You'll be just a small fry that can't stand up to the public." A bolt of heavenly lightning was already heading towards the spirit ship. Hearing Yun Chujio's curses, it forcefully turned around and hacked towards Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio did her best to leap towards the floating ice at the side. The heavenly lightning struck the floating ice from before, and the huge floating ice was instantly split into two halves. When Yun Chujio caught a glimpse of it, her heart couldn't help but beat faster. Oh my, the heavenly lightning in the divine enlightenment continent seemed to be much more powerful than the heavenly lightning in the heavy cloud continent. However, this fellow was very confident. If she jumped a few more times, she would dive into the water. No matter how powerful the heavenly lightning was, it wouldn't be able to kill her. Therefore, after she jumped a few times on the ice floe, she was struck by a heavenly lightning and dissipated into the cracks of the ice floe. Everyone on the spirit ship witnessed the entire process, and their faces were filled with gratitude and sadness. Altar Master Deng had mixed feelings in his heart. Although he had some intention to help Yun Chujio, it was under the premise that it did not involve his own interests. He did not expect this little girl to be willing to sacrifice her own life to save him. It really made him feel both moved and guilty. Superintendent Zhang's face was filled with shame. He had reprimanded the little girl several times before, but reality proved that he had underestimated her. She had really thought of a way to save everyone's lives. Now, she had sacrificed herself for the sake of everyone's safety. It really made him feel ashamed. The rest of the judges were also touched. The people at the heavenly dock were even more touched. Ding Shen Wu, and Wei Ba were already crying out loud. Even Chen Shi had mixed feelings. She didn't expect Chojio to sacrifice herself to save them. She was simply too stupid. Was there such a stupid person in this world? If she had known earlier that she was so kind to the point of being stupid, she wouldn't have bothered with her. Unfortunately, she was already dead. It was useless to say all this. However, the dark cloud hadn't dispersed yet. It wouldn't continue to cleave down, right? Many people had the same thoughts as Chen Shi. The dark cloud in the sky had no intention of dissipating. If it continued to cleave down, Chojio's sacrifice would be in vain. Chapter 55:31 Are you really still alive? Just as everyone was worried, they were pleasantly surprised to find that the heavenly lightning struck toward the water not far away, but it did not strike their spirit ship again. Moreover, as the heavenly lightning continued to strike down, the floating ice around them was cut into countless pieces, which made it more convenient for them to protect the spirit ship. For hours later, the ice began to gather and then began to freeze again. While everyone was delighted, they noticed that Wu Yun in the sky shook violently a few times and then floated away, as if he was exasperated. Everyone felt that they must have seen wrongly. Putting aside whether Wu Yun would have human emotions, even if he did, as someone who held the power of life and death, Wu Yun would not be exasperated. It was already midnight, and the temperature on the ice was frighteningly low. Therefore, everyone decided to hide inside the spirit ship. Although the spirit ship might be frozen, it was still better than being frozen to death. After daybreak, they would first return to Jinsha Bay to repair themselves. At that time, they would think of a way to get the spirit ship out. Everyone was naturally very excited because they had saved their lives. However, Altar Master Deng and the others could not help but sigh when they thought of Yun Chujio, who had sacrificed herself for them. That night, everyone almost did not sleep. They waited until the sun rose and the temperature was slightly higher before they got off the spirit ship and returned to Golden Sand Bay. When they arrived at Golden Sand Bay, the Golden Sand Bay guards were very excited. Altar Master, everyone, it's great that all of you are fine. Altar Master Deng and the others were not in the mood to say anything and entered Golden Sand Bay. Golden Sand Bay was only a temporary station, so it was not too big. Everyone was cold and tired, so they went straight to the backyard to rest. As soon as they reached the backyard, the door of a room was pushed open, and a person covered in cotton cloth climbed out. It should be a person, right? The cotton cloth was originally white, but now it was dyed red with blood. They could only vaguely see that it was a human shape, only a pair of eyes were exposed. At this moment, 2 guards came out from the house. It seemed that they wanted to bring that person back into the house, but that person let out a hoarse voice. Altar Master Deng, you're still alive? Altar Master Deng and the others trembled. This voice, could she be Chojio? Ding Shen Wu, and Wei Ba had already run over. Team leader, is the team leader you? You're still alive? 2 lines of clear tears instantly flowed from that person's eyes. Are you guys really still alive? That's great, that person fainted before he could finish his words. Everyone had already confirmed that the person wrapped like a cocoon was Chojio. She was actually not dead? Moreover, she had appeared in Golden Sand Bay. What was going on? Just as everyone was puzzled, a guard clicked his tongue and said, "What's going on?" 2 hours ago, we heard a loud sound. When we came out to check, we found that this person had smashed into the city gate. TSK, that was really tragic. Her entire body was covered in blood, and her clothes and wounds were frozen together. If it wasn't for the fact that her eyes could still move, we would have thought that she was a dead person. We saw that the clothes on her body were the clothes of Ascending Heaven Doc, so we carried her inside. Since we didn't have a woman here and her clothes were frozen, we had no choice but to use a cotton cloth to bandage her briefly. Altar Master Deng did not have the patience to continue listening and roared, "Are they all dead? Hurry up and carry Chojio inside so that she can be treated properly." Chapter 55-32 Compassion for the World. Altar Master Deng only had one thought. No matter how Chojio got to Jinsha Bay, the most important thing now was to keep her alive. Everyone else had the same thought. This Chojio was already in such a state, but the first thing she said was, "It's great that you're still alive." What kind of compassion was this? Even the masters of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall might not be as compassionate as her. What a kind and good girl. If such a good girl died, it would be a loss to the divine enlightenment continent. However, everyone was not good at medicine, so they could only take out some pills to stop the bleeding and feed them to Yun Chujio. Altar Master Deng quickly informed Heaven's Doc to send a doctor over. A moment later, Yun Chujio slowly woke up and then closed her eyes. A moment later, she opened them again and muttered, "I'm not dreaming? Everyone is not dead?" When everyone saw this, they could not help but feel even more touched. Dinger and the others were already crying. How could there be such a kind person in this world? It was really touching. While Ding Er was crying, she also felt that something was not right. This ugly Geo even cheated the red skeleton inside the illusion sky banner. No matter how she looked at it, she did not look like such a kind person. However, everything in front of her was real. She had really seen a ghost. Superintendent Zhang said with a face full of shame, "Little girl, we are all still alive. This time, It's all thanks to you. Altar Master Deng also said from the side, yes, we are all still alive. Don't worry, I will definitely cure you. Yun Chujia's eyes suddenly shone like the stars. Really? We are really still alive. That's great. Everyone wanted to ask her why she had come to Jinsha Bay, but seeing her like this, they had to endure it. It was better to wait until her injuries were better before asking. At this time, Yun Chujio said with some difficulty, Altar Master Deng, can you guys leave for a while? I'll get Sister Ding Air to help me change my clothes and apply some medicine on my wounds. Altar Master Deng naturally would not refuse. He quickly brought everyone out and only Ding was left in the room. Shen Wu and Wei Ba wanted to stay as well. Wei Ba was stunned when she saw Yun Chujio winking at her. She immediately dragged Shen Wu, who was crying like a cat, out of the house. She dragged Shen Wu to the door of the house. She seemed to be worried about Yun Chujio's injuries and could not bear to leave. In fact, she was standing at the door to prevent anyone from entering the house. Yun Chujio heard Shen Wu's low sobs, and the corner of her mouth curled under the cotton cloth. Then she said to Ding, take off the cotton cloth on my body. These idiots wrapped it so tightly that I almost couldn't breathe. Ding Air, how did this energetic look like someone who was about to die? Although she was puzzled, she quickly took off the cotton cloth on Yun Chujio's body. She saw that Yun Chujio's dress was covered in blood, and it looked exceptionally terrifying. Most importantly, where was her hair? Where were her eyebrows? Why did she become bald? Just as she was stunned, Yun Chujio glared at her fiercely. Turn around, I want to change my clothes. Ding subconsciously turned around and heard the rustling sound of changing clothes behind her. He thought to himself, that's not right. She was injured so badly, but she could still change her clothes by herself? Alright, turn around. When Ding turned around, Yun Chujio had already put away the cotton and dirty clothes. Lying on the bed, she crossed her legs and asked, tell me about what happened after I bravely lured away the heavenly lightning. Ding Air. Chapter 55:33 was even more cruel to her. Ding was dumbfounded. Didn't they say that she was seriously injured? Didn't they say that she was going to die soon? She had never heard of anyone who was going to die who had the time to cross their legs. And she had never heard of anyone who was seriously injured who had the time to ask about her great achievements. However, she thought of a possibility. Could it be that she was going to die? She opened her mouth and asked, Team leader, are you okay? Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. What can happen to me? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise, the doctor who will treat my injuries will be here soon. Ding suppressed the shock in his heart and told her everything. He also described everyone's reactions. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes, feeling very satisfied. It seemed that the effect of her sacrificing herself to save others this time was quite good. If she used it properly, her journey to the divine enlightenment continent would be much smoother. After being struck by the heavenly lightning, she deliberately fell into the water and then dived to the bottom of the water. Although the heavenly lightning kept striking her, the power of the lightning on her body was greatly weakened due to the weakening of the floating ice and the river water. She absorbed all the power of the heavenly lightning effortlessly. It was simply wonderful. Although her cultivation stopped at the peak of the 9th level of Spirit Extinguisher, she was still very satisfied. After all, one could not be too greedy. This fellow thought about it. If she directly returned to the spirit ship, she really could not come up with a convincing explanation. She pondered for a moment. Since the spirit ship was damaged, everyone would definitely return to Golden Sand Bay to repair it. She climbed out of the crack before the ice completely froze and then staged a good show herself. However, this good show had just been put on for the first half of the show. The second half of the show would soon start. This guy thought for a moment. Under Ding Er's horrified gaze, he gritted his teeth and cut his arm and face a few times. Then he rubbed the bloodstains on the quilt and the corner of his mouth. He curled the corner of his mouth and said to Ding, later, the doctor will come. Do you know what to say? Ding was already scared silly. He mumbled, no, I don't know. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and gave him a few instructions. Dingo nodded in a daze. His gaze landed on Yun Chujia's clothes that had been dyed red again, and he couldn't help but shiver. This Chojio was ruthless to others, but she was even more ruthless to herself. Such a ruthless character would definitely become someone superior. In the future, no matter what she said, she would cling onto her thigh tightly and not let go. An hour later, the sky-reaching doctor arrived. Ding-O was stunned to see that Hei Shinjio, who was originally glowing red, was now as pale as death. Her forehead was also covered with fine beads of sweat, coupled with the blood stains at the corner of her mouth. No matter how he looked at it, she looked like she was about to die. After the doctor checked Yun Chujia's pulse, he also wanted to check the injuries on Yun Chujia's body. Ding-Er wiped his tears and said, "Doctor, there are almost no good places on the team leader's body. Her clothes and flesh are almost stuck together. I have already helped the team leader with the external wound medicine. If you open her clothes again, it will inevitably hurt again. You can directly prescribe some external medicine. I will apply it again in a while." The doctor did not insist. Firstly, Ding-Er's words were reasonable. Secondly, it was not convenient for the girl in front of him. Therefore, he sighed and said, "The external injuries are not serious. She will recover after applying the medicine for a few days. The main reason is that her meridians are severely damaged and the cold air has entered her body. If the root of the illness is left behind, it may affect her future cultivation." When Altar Master Deng and the others heard this, they felt even more guilty. If it was not for saving them, this little girl would not have suffered such a disaster. They had let her down. Chapter 55-34 Chojio had an epiphany. If you need any medicinal pills or herbs, just say the word. You have to treat her no matter what, Altar Master Deng said in a deep voice. The others also chimed in, asking the physician to do his best to treat Yun Chujio and not to affect her future cultivation. The physician sighed. "Altar Master, it's not that I haven't tried my best. It's just that this lattice injuries are too severe, and my ability is limited. I can only use pills to suppress the cold qi in her body temporarily. If I want to completely eradicate and repair her meridians, they'll have to find someone else." Altar Master Deng nodded. "Just try your best. After the spirit ship is repaired, you'll bring the little girl to the divine enlightenment continent and find someone to treat her properly." Hei Shinjio could not help but feel a little annoyed. She had played too much. If she had known this would happen, she would not have let Gui Butsao cause such a serious injury. But fortunately, she had a backup plan. The physician took out some pills and handed them to Ding-Er. After instructing him on how to take them, he left. Although the others were full of questions, they didn't ask much when they saw Yun Chujia's pale face. After all, there was still time in the future. It wasn't too late to ask after she was better. As soon as everyone left, Ding-Er saw the half-dead Hei Shinjio stretch lazily before taking out a meat bun and eating it. Ding-Er. Hei Shinjio threw a few meat buns to Ding-Er, blinked her eyes, and whispered a few words to Ding-Er. Ding-Er's eyes were wide open, and his mouth was wide enough to fit a meat bun. He could not believe what he had just heard and stuttered, Aren't you afraid that you're going too far and that there's no way to end this?" Yun Chujio bared her little white teeth. "Don't worry, no one will doubt such a kind and good girl like me. You've performed well this time, be obedient, and I'll bring you to fly with me." Ding-Er thought to himself, "You can't not bring me, I've already made up my mind to hug your thigh." Yun Chujio asked Ding-Er to take out the ointment and shake it to cover the fragrance of the meat buns. 2 hours later, this guy sat up cross-legged and gestured at Ding-Er with his mouth. Ding-Er pinched his thigh and shouted while running out, "Team leader has had an epiphany! Team leader has had an epiphany!" Shen Wu and Wei Ba, who were guarding the door, were shocked. They did not know what was going on in the room. They pulled Ding-Er and asked, "What did you say?" Ding-Er resisted the urge to roll his eyes and shouted in surprise, "The team leader had an epiphany!" Shen Wu and Wei Ba were both surprised and happy. They rushed into the house and saw Yun Chujio sitting cross-legged on the bed. There was a faint halo around her body, and her pale face had become rosy. Shen Wu was completely dumbfounded. She really thought that Yun Chujio was seriously injured before. Now that she saw Yun Chujio had an epiphany, she was so happy that she cried. Wei Ba, who was standing at the side, had guessed a little, but she did not say anything. She pretended to have the same expression as Shen Wu. Jin Shabei was not big to begin with. In addition to Ding Er's loud voice, it did not take long for Altar Master Deng and the others to gather around. What did you say? Altar Master Deng asked in disbelief. Altar Master, the team leader, had already fallen into a deep sleep. She suddenly sat up and seemed to be in a daze. I thought that she had been frightened previously. I didn't expect that she would start meditating with her legs crossed. Then, there was a faint glow on her body. I finally understood that she had had an epiphany. The heavens really have eyes. Our team leader is a good person who has good karma. Ding said with a sobbing tone. Chapter 55-35 Good Karma. Altar Master Deng and the others were both surprised and happy when they heard that. In order to prevent Yun Chujio from having an epiphany, Altar Master Deng and the others only peeked inside the door a few times and did not enter the house. When they saw that Yun Chujio was indeed sitting cross-legged and meditating just like Dinger had said, and there was a faint halo surrounding her body, they immediately believed it without a doubt. 2 hours later, the light on Yun Chujio's body shone brightly. She had actually broken through. 7th level spirit extinguisher, 8th level spirit extinguisher, 9th level spirit extinguisher. Heavens, she had actually broken through 3 levels in one go. Wasn't this an epiphany? Everyone sighed. As expected, the heavens are fair. Miss Chojio sacrificed herself to save others. Naturally, the heavens will not mistreat her. Now it seems that not only has her injuries healed, she even broke through 3 levels in one go. That's right. I thought that Lady Chojio had a narrow escape this time. I didn't expect that not only was she safe and sound, but she had also gotten a blessing in disguise. Therefore, a person has to do good deeds, and good deeds are rewarded. A kind and good lady like Chojio should have such good luck. Lady Chojio is the kindest and kindest lady I've ever met in my life. Dinga heard everyone's discussion and resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Sooner or later, all of you will know how ignorant you are. At this time, Yun Chujio had already opened her eyes. She raised her arm and moved her legs. Then she said happily, "My injuries are all healed? I also broke through? Am I dreaming?" Altar Master Deng smiled and said, "Of course I'm not dreaming. This is all an epiphany. What did you comprehend just now?" Yun Chujio said a little embarrassedly, "It's nothing. I just suddenly felt that something in my head suddenly opened up. I seem to have become indifferent to life and death." Superintendent Zhang of the Academy of 10 Directions stroked his beard and said, "That's not strange. The little girl sacrificed herself to save others and experienced this life and death catastrophe. Naturally, she has become indifferent to life and death. This is also her good fortune." The others also sighed. Altar Master Deng had specially asked the doctor to come over and check Yun Chujio's pulse. The doctor's eyes widened in disbelief. She has really recovered. This is really something to congratulate. When everyone heard this, they immediately believed Yun Chujio's epiphany. Ding Er's heart was filled with pity for these people. These people had been fooled by Chojio. If one day they found out the truth, they would probably die of anger, right? Chapter 55-36 turned out to be fishing for a big fish. Yun Chujio thanked her profusely and took the small porcelain jar. She took a deep breath and said, "That day, I was not struck by lightning. Instead, I accidentally fell into a crack in the hard ice. Fortunately, I had a few waterproof beads on me, but it was too cold in the water. Even if I used my spiritual power to protect myself, my body was still cut by the sharp edges of the hard ice. Moreover, the temperature of the water was too low, and I was almost frozen stiff. Just when I thought that I would definitely die, I didn't expect to be entangled by a giant ice wristband." A giant ice wristband? Everyone's heart immediately jumped to their throats. Was this an attack from a sea beast? I was about to take out my dagger to cut that giant ice wristband, but I discovered that the owner of the giant ice wristband was actually the giant ice wristband that I encountered during the beast tide. At that time, I was scared half to death, thinking that it was going to eat me. In addition to the cold and injuries on my body, my head buzzed, and I actually fainted. By the time I regained consciousness, it was already time for the Golden Sand Bay guards to discover me. As for what happened in the middle, I have no idea. Perhaps it was the giant ice wristband that saved me, or perhaps something else happened in the middle, Yun Chujio said with some confusion. When everyone heard this, they immediately started discussing all kinds of possibilities. In the end, they came up with a truth that everyone agreed on. Giant ice wristband had helped Chojio get rid of its enemy, Manager Yu of Thousandwood Workshop, in return, so it had saved Chojio this time. Although the underwater temperature was extremely low, the sea beasts naturally had ways to keep them warm. That was how they had saved Chojio's life. As for why Chojio had fallen on the city gate previously, it must have been because Giant Ice Wristband had thrown her out of the air vent. After all, Giant Ice Wristband's tentacles were very long. Although it was a little strenuous, it could still be done. Although the truth was flawed, Chojio had been unconscious at that time, so it was understandable that she didn't know the process. Besides, the process wasn't important. The most important thing was that they and Chojio were fine. Thus, the matter was put behind them. Of course, there were still repercussions. For example, little girl, what are your plans for the Divine Inspiration Continent? Why don't I use some connections to help you find a job in the Myriad City Alliance? Little girl, although our Iron Blood Massacre Alliance is all about fighting and killing, we also have some jobs that are responsible for logistics. If you are interested, I can recommend you. Little girl, although your aptitude is average and your cultivation is really low, I can use some connections to let you become an audit student at the 10 Directions Academy. Are you interested? Little girl, our Divine Enlightenment Academy also has an audit student slot. Logically speaking, you need to pay a huge amount of spirit stones to have such an opportunity. However, I can help you get a slot. Would you consider it? Ding Er's face was filled with envy, jealousy, and no hatred. The main thing was, he did not dare to hate. She thought to herself, no wonder Chojio wanted to make such a scene. It turned out that he wanted to fish for a big fish. Although they were now quasi-residents of the Divine Enlightenment Continent, they were at the bottom of the hierarchy in the Divine Enlightenment Continent. The Alliance of 10,000 Cities, the Iron Blood Alliance, the 10 Directions Academy, and the Divine Enlightenment Academy that these people were talking about were all at the top of the Divine Enlightenment Continent. They were not qualified to enter at all, and they were not even qualified to be servants. But now, these forces had opened their doors to Chojio. What kind of dog shit luck was this? Chapter 5537 Could money be used to solve a problem? Yun Chujio politely thanked these people for extending an olive branch. She said that she would think about it, but she did not agree immediately. Ding Er's heart ached when he saw this. She actually had to think about such a great opportunity that she had dreamed of. Comparing people was so infuriating. Hei Shinjio was in a good mood. She had sacrificed herself for others, to cover up the fact that she was not afraid of being struck by lightning. She did not expect to become a good girl that everyone praised by accident. After the epiphany, her breakthrough had a reason to see the light. Most importantly, she could also choose a shelter. After all, the Divine Enlightenment Continent was the lair of the God-Devil Temple. Although she had not been exposed yet, she would be exposed sooner or later. It was necessary to have a shelter. This was a great deal. She was so impressed with herself. How could she be so smart? How could she be so smart? She was too smart to be human. This guy was narcissistic for a while, and then he began to wonder where he was going. She was not very familiar with these forces, and Dinger did not know much about them. After all, she had only heard about the things that she knew. Since the information was limited, she would just use the method of elimination. First of all, she could not go to the Alliance of 10,000 Cities no matter what. It was said that the two dead manager you had a backer. If she went to the alliance of 10,000 cities, wouldn't she be looking for trouble for herself? It was said that the Iron Blood Alliance often took on dangerous missions. Even if it was a logistical task, she might have to go on expeditions with the team sometimes. She was now a weak person, and if she was not careful, she would lose her life, therefore she could not go. Then, there were only the 10 Directions Academy and the Divine Revelation Academy. It was said that both of them were equally famous, but which one should she go to? To be honest, this fellow was tired of going to the academy. It was really boring to be able to easily get first place every time. However, she had to admit that entering the academy was her best choice at the moment. She could have a shelter and learn some useful things. The silly girls in the spiritual beast bags looked at each other. Where did their black-hearted master get his confidence from? And he got the first place so easily? She was only an audit student this time. She was not even an official student. How could she get the first place? Of course, these silly girls had learned their lesson. Only a fool would tell the truth. Yun Chujia's gaze fell on Ding Er. Then she thought of Xin Wu and Wei Ba at the door. She had a plan in her heart. She met with Superintendent Zhang of the Divine Enlightenment Academy and Superintendent Zhang of the 10 Directions Academy respectively. She suggested that Ding Er and the other two should enter the academy together with her, even if it meant spending some spirit stones. Superintendent Zhang was very reluctant to reject Yun Chujia's request. Little girl, to be honest, apart from a huge donation, the auditing students of the Divine Enlightenment Academy also need to have a certain background. Making an exception to accept you is already my greatest authority. Superintendent Zhang hesitated for a moment. Normally, each person has to pay 20 million upper-grade spirit stones and have a deep background. The best I can do is to help them create a fake background, but the spirit stones have to be paid in full. Yun Chujio pretended to hesitate for a moment and then said, "I'll let them think of a way to deal with the spirit stones." "Thank you, Superintendent Zhang. If they need me in the future, I won't refuse." Although Superintendent Zhang had targeted her at the beginning, it was just a verbal argument. Later, he took the initiative to express his goodwill, which meant that this person was still trustworthy. As for 20 million upper-grade spiritual stones per person, could a matter that could be solved with money be considered a problem? Chapter 55-38. Superintendent Zhang heard Yun Chujio say this and knew that she had chosen the 10 Directions Academy. He was immediately very happy. This little girl had accepted his favor and settled the karma. It was also to prevent him from having inner demons in his cultivation in the future. This result could not be better. Moreover, he truly felt that the little girl in front of him was very good. Whether it was her intelligence and calmness during the ice shock or her self-sacrifice later on, it all showed that this little girl was extraordinary. Even if her aptitude was a little lower and her cultivation was a little lower, she might have some opportunity to soar to the sky in the future. It was always good to form a good relationship with her. After Superintendent Zhang left, Yun Chujio told Ding Er and the others about what had happened. Ding Er could not believe his ears. "Team leader, what did you say? I can also enter the 10 Directions Academy? Did I hear wrongly? Is what you said true? Are you really bringing us along?" Shen Wu and Wei Ba were also pleasantly surprised. However, the three of them quickly frowned. The reason was very simple. They lacked money. Although they were once the favored sons of heaven and had brought a lot of spirit stones with them, but 20 million? That was too much. They had been so engrossed in cultivation that both their families and sects would give them the best resources, so they would not be distracted by mundane tasks like spirit stones. When they ascended, they were already so excited that they would not even think about bringing more spirit stones. Hence, it was a little awkward now. It was the first time that they were stumped by spirit stones. Since they had already ascended, it would not be easy for them to return to their original continent. Hence, the road back to their original continent was basically blocked. The three of them were so regretful that their intestines turned green. If they had known this would happen, they would have brought more spirit stones over no matter what. However, what was the point of saying all this now? Yun Chujio smiled as she looked at the three of them who were burning with anxiety. She bared her little white teeth and said, "You guys don't have it, but I do. Have you forgotten that I have robbed a lot of storage rings?" Ding-er and the rest were immediately delighted. That's right. Previously, Cho Jio and the Red Skeleton had dug a lot of storage rings for those candidates. There would definitely be a large number of spirit stones inside. Shen Wu hurriedly said, "Team leader, lend me some spirit stones first. I will definitely repay it twice in the future." Ding and Wei Ba also expressed their stance and then looked at Yun Chujio with eager eyes. "No problem. Come, put your fingerprint on the loan slip and I will lend you the money." Yun Chujio smiled amiably, but for some reason, Ding-er and the others felt a cold breeze behind their backs. They felt that she was digging a hole, and it was a hole that would last for thousands of years. However, they had no other choice now. Besides, they had already decided to cling on to Yun Chujio's thigh long ago, so it was fine to dig a hole. Thus, the three of them put their fingerprint on the loan slip that Yun Chujio had written. Yun Chujio looked at it and put it away in satisfaction. This fellow was secretly happy. Loan slip? This was a contract to sell one's body. After Yun Chujio put away the loan slip, she said, "Leave the spirit stones with me first. When we reach the 10 Directions Academy, I will pay for you." The three of them didn't doubt him and immediately nodded in agreement. 10 days later, the spirit ship was repaired, and everyone set off for the Divine Enlightenment continent again. On the way, they were all trembling in fear, afraid that something bad would happen to them again. However, nothing unusual happened this time, and they successfully arrived at the other side of the Eternal River. The moment they stepped on the riverbank, they felt relieved. Altar Master Deng took them to the city closest to the Eternal River, the border city, and handed over the identity documents for Yun Chujio and the others. Chapter 55-39. Yan Qingqing. Everyone began to register their identities in an orderly manner. Shen Wu's original name was Gu Lianyi, and Wei Ba's original name was Qin Linglong. When it was Ding Er's turn, Yun Chujio finally found out that Ding Er's original name was Ding Wenru. Yun Chujio, a good name, a good name. It didn't seem at all out of place with Ding Er. When it came to Yun Chujio, this fellow straightened his back and announced the best name he had come up with over the past few days, Yan Qingqing. This guy felt that he was too compatible with this name. Initially, he had wanted to call her Yan Juedai, the prettiest, the ugliest, and so on, but in the end, he felt that they were too high profile. It was Yan Qingqing who was more low profile. Very soon, the identity document with Yan Qingqing's name on it was handed to Yun Chujio. This guy was very satisfied with the name on it. He had finally gotten rid of this lousy name, Chojio. After the identity document was processed, everyone went their separate ways. Their future situation would depend on their own luck. Altar Master Deng had to go to the headquarters of the Alliance of 10,000 Cities to report this matter. In addition to the fact that school was about to start at the Academy of 10 Directions, he had to give Yun Chujio a few instructions and pass his voice transmission talisman to her. "Little girl, if you need my help in the future, feel free to send me a message. As long as I can help, I will definitely do my best." Altar Master Deng said these words with extra sincerity. It was completely different from the perfunctory words he said in the Heavenly Dock. Yun Chujio smiled and said, "Altar Master, I will remember it. Please take care." The others also came over to bid farewell to Yun Chujio. Even Qin Shi, who had recovered his original name, Mei Xinyan, also came over to greet her. When Yun Chujio heard her original name, the corner of her mouth twitched. Mei Xinyan? Heartless? This name was very appropriate. After everyone had left, Yun Chujio and the other three followed Superintendent Zhang of the Academy of 10 Directions to the Academy of 10 Directions. Yun Chujio was a sweet talker and knew how to cause trouble. She quickly coaxed Superintendent Zhang until he was beaming with joy. He felt that his taste was really good. If the Academy of 10 Directions missed out on such a good student, it would be a great loss. "Superintendent Zhang, please introduce the situation of the Academy of 10 Directions to me. Also, what are the conditions for becoming a serious student of the Academy of 10 Directions?" Superintendent Zhang gave a brief introduction of the Academy of 10 Directions. It was nothing more than bragging about its great achievements. The Academy of 10 Directions and the Divine Enlightenment Academy were both known as the top academies on the Divine Enlightenment continent. Due to their geographical location, they were commonly known as the Divine Enlightenment Academy of the South and the North. Regardless of fame or strength, they were equally matched. Superintendent Zhang changed the topic. If you want to become an official student of the 10 Directions Academy, you need to pass several rounds of assessment. Only the best of them are qualified to enter the 10 Directions Academy. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Then can we participate in the assessment? Superintendent Zhang was stunned. Although he did not want to discourage her, he still said, "Little girl, although you are very smart, your cultivation is really too poor. Do you know what the lowest cultivation requirement is for the entrance examination of the 10 Directions Academy?" Superintendent Zhang didn't really want Yun Chujio to answer, so he continued, "The lowest cultivation requirement is the 5th level of the Divine Enlightenment. The lowest qualification for the entrance examination is the 5th level of the Divine Enlightenment. Usually, those who can pass the examination are above the 6th level of the Divine Enlightenment. You don't even meet the lowest qualification for the entrance examination. Moreover, the assessment of the 10 Directions Academy will officially begin tomorrow. We won't be able to make it in time." Superintendent Zhang was afraid that he would be a blow to Yun Chujio's confidence, so he comforted her. "Although the gap is a little big, you don't have to belittle yourself. As long as you work hard in the future, the 10 Directions Academy's listening students will be very good after graduation." Chapter 55 40 Powerful Self-Confidence. Yun Chujio smiled. "Superintendent Zhang, you don't have to persuade me. I always believe in one thing. Although the starting point is not something I can choose, how far I can go and how high I can climb in the end is something I can decide for myself." When Yun Chujio said this, her voice was not very high and her tone was not very strong. However, Superintendent Zhang's heart was shocked. Because he saw a strong confidence in Yun Chujio's eyes, he did not know what to say for a moment. Ding Wenru's mouth twitched. No wonder she dared to call Yan Qingqing by her name. She was really confident. The reason why Ding Wenru knew that the name Yun Chujio was calling Yan Qingqing was a fake name was very simple. Yun Chujio wrote a bunch of names on the paper like Yan Juedai, the most beautiful, and Dugu Chocho. She asked her to help her choose. This Yan Qingqing was chosen by Ding Wenru for Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio did this on purpose. Sometimes, it was easier to form an alliance if she left some small evidence to her companions. Besides, she knew very well that her fake identity would probably be revealed soon, so she didn't care. One day, when the flying spiritual device passed by a valley, Superintendent Zhang smiled and said, "The examinees from the 10 Directions Academy are here to participate in the assessment. Superintendent Kai, who is in charge of the assessment, and I are good friends. I will bring you to see it." In fact, Superintendent Zhang bringing them to see it was one thing. The most important thing was that the examinees would be staying here for 10 days. Superintendent Kai had nothing to say to the other lecturers, so when he learned that Superintendent Zhang happened to be passing by, he invited him to stay here with him for a few days. Superintendent Zhang thought that since school had not started yet, there was nothing much to do when he returned to the academy. He might as well catch up with his old friends here, so he readily agreed. When the two of them met, Superintendent Kai discreetly sized up Yun Chujio and the other three, then looked at Superintendent Zhang with a questioning gaze. "The girl in the middle is called Yan Qingqing. This time, I met an ice quake at Zhenggu River. If it wasn't for her, you wouldn't have been able to see me. So, I specially recruited her to be an audit student. When I return to the academy, I will report to the dean." The other three have some background. Although they aren't very prominent, because of Yan Qingqing's plea, and because they can afford to pay the donation fee, I reluctantly agreed, Superintendent Zhang explained. Superintendent Kai was not very interested in the matter of Ding Wenru and the other two. Although the 10 Directions Academy had some background requirements for audit students, there would be someone who pulled strings every year, as long as the donation fee was affordable. Everyone turned a blind eye. However, he was very interested in what Superintendent Zhang had said about the ice quake. He hurriedly asked Superintendent Zhang to explain the matter in detail. Superintendent Zhang immediately told him about what had happened that day. Then, he sighed, if it wasn't for King Cheng's intelligence and decisiveness, not to mention me, not a single person on that boat would have survived. However, a good person has a good reward. After this incident, Qing Cheng received an epiphany. Not only did she break through 3 levels of cultivation, but her injuries were also completely healed. Superintendent Kai was stunned when he heard this. The incident had been too thrilling and bizarre. If he did not know his good friend well enough to not lie to him, he would have thought that he was listening to a story. However, he thought of a crucial problem. Yan Qingqing had broken through 3 levels with an epiphany, and she looked like she was only at the 9th level of the Spirit Extinguisher realm. Then, wasn't she at the 6th level of the Spirit Extinguisher realm before? This was too low. Chapter 55-41 People are shameless and invincible in the world. Superintendent Kai thought to himself. Although this Yan Qingqing was brave, her talents seemed to be very ordinary. Unless there was a great opportunity, she would not be too outstanding. Although Superintendent Kai thought this in his heart, he did not show it on his face. Instead, he praised Yun Chujio a few times. There were many things that could only be etched in one's heart through personal experience. Bystanders would never feel the same, just like Superintendent Zhang and Superintendent Kai. At this moment, the other lecturers all came forward to greet Superintendent Zhang. Although the position of superintendent was not considered to be at the top of the hierarchy in the Academy of 10 Directions, it was still higher than the position of lecturers. Those lecturers naturally did not dare to neglect it. Superintendent Zhang exchanged a few pleasantries. After those lecturers walked to the side, he asked, Brother Kai, how many examinees are you in charge of this time? The number of examinees that the 10 Directions Academy applied for each year was uncountable. After the initial selection, there would still be many people. Therefore, the first 2 rounds of the assessment would be divided into 2 rounds. Superintendent Kai was in charge of 1 batch of examinees. The initial 5,000 people. After the first round, there are only 3,000 people left. It is estimated that after this round, there will be about 1,000 people left, said Superintendent Kai. Ding Wenru and the other 2 were speechless. The elimination rate was too high. It seemed that it would be very difficult for the Academy of 10 Directions to enter. Superintendent Zhang asked again, what is the assessment for this round? Superintendent Kai smiled and said, it is quite simple. Leave them in the Rocky Valley for 10 days and calculate the points according to the demonic cores and spiritual herbs used to hunt demonic beasts. Those ranked in the top 1,000 will enter the next round and the rest will be eliminated. There are 3 more days until the deadline. Well, go back to the academy together then. Yun Chujio pursed her lips in her heart. She had said that entering the academy was the most boring. This kind of assessment was so old-fashioned that there was nothing new about it. Superintendent Zhang seemed to want to talk to Superintendent Kai alone for a while, so he said, the 4 of you can wander around freely, but don't go too far. Yun Chujio naturally couldn't ask for more. She responded respectfully and took Ding Wenru and the other 2 to walk around. Team leader, the 10 Directions Academy really lives up to its reputation. The acceptance rate is too low. It's only the 2nd round, and 4/5 of the people have been eliminated. Ding Wenru sighed. Yun Chujio glanced at her. Please call me Yan Qingqing in the future, or Qingqing. Ding Wenru, don't you know whether this name is real or not? Besides, you are so beautiful. How can you say yes when others call you Qingqing? Ding Wenru didn't blame her for complaining. Yun Chujio had been taking the transfiguration pill. Her current appearance could only be called delicate and pretty. She was nothing like Qingqing. Ding Wenru complained in her heart, and then she said, Qingqing, you said that the examination of the 10 Directions Academy is so difficult. So those who enter the 10 Directions Academy must be the favored ones of the heavens. Will we, the listening students, be ostracized and ridiculed by them? Gu Lianyi and Qin Linglong also showed a worried look. They had always been smooth sailing in the previous continent, and the surroundings were full of flattery and envy. At the thought of the difference in entering the 10 Directions Academy, they could not help but feel a little worried. Yun Chujio curled her lips. What's there to worry about? How could it be worse than the situation in the heavenly dock? Remember this. People are shameless and invincible. You are shameless, what are you afraid of? Ding Wenru, Gu Lianyi, Qin Linglong. The three of them looked stiff, but they felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense. In order to survive in the heavenly dock, they had lost their so-called face a long time ago. In that case, what were they afraid of? Chapter 55-42 from? Ding Wenru and the other two were suddenly enlightened, and they immediately forgot about their worries. Out of curiosity, the four of them quickly strolled to the valley entrance barrier. Without any psychological burden, Ding Wenru and the other two quickly started chattering. They were very curious about everything in the divine enlightenment continent. Hei Xinjiu occasionally chimed in, but she didn't say anything after that. It wasn't that she was pretending to be deep, but that she was suppressing the evil Goei Batsao. Although Goei Batsao couldn't speak, Yun Chujio could still guess that this guy wanted her to enter the rocky valley. Hei Xinjiu was so angry that she kept twitching. Goei Batsao, you'd better give up this idea as soon as possible. Let's not talk about whether Supervisor Kai will agree or not. Even if he does, it's full of dangers. Do you want me to go in and die? Goei Batsao kept trying to act cute. Seeing that Yun Chujio still had no intention of giving in, this guy directly seized control of her body. Yun Chujio was so angry that she was about to explode. This was her body. Hers. Why did this damn Goei Batsao want to take it away and take it away? What did she do to provoke such a damn grass? After Goei Batsao gained control of her body, she subconsciously shook her arm. When Ding Wenru saw it, she asked, Qing Qing, are you feeling unwell? Goei Batsao blinked her eyes and ignored her. Instead, she quickly ran toward the place where Superintendent Zhang was. Ding Wenru and the other two were baffled and could only follow behind. Superintendent Zhang, Superintendent Kai, I want to enter the Rocky Valley to broaden my horizons, okay? Goei Batsao said pitifully. Superintendent Zhang frowned and said, Nonsense. Demonic beasts run rampant in the chaotic valley. Any one of them can take your life. There is no room for negotiation. Goei Batsao was furious. He really wanted to strangle this old man with a leaf. It squeezed out 2 drops of tears. It said, Superintendent Zhang, I know that this request is a bit too much, but when I had an epiphany earlier, an image flashed in my mind. It was the rocky valley in front of me, so I wanted to go in and look for an opportunity. Moreover, previously Superintendent Kai didn't say that if the person who went in was in danger, he could crush the jade plate and be teleported out. As long as he was careful, there wouldn't be any danger. Superintendent Zhang, I beg you, please agree with me. Yun Chujio looked at her pitiful lackey and was so angry that she was about to explode. Damn Goei Batsao. She actually lied without blinking. Who did she learn it from? She was so angry. In her heart, she begged Superintendent Zhang not to agree. She didn't want to go into the chaotic valley. If the jade plate was not useful, wouldn't she die in there? However, she had really misjudged Superintendent Zhang's good impression of her. When Superintendent Zhang heard that it was related to an epiphany, he immediately looked at Superintendent Kai. Brother Kai, since that's the case, can you make it easy for her to go in and broaden her horizons? Superintendent Kai pondered for a moment and said, It's not impossible, but I have to make it clear in advance. If anything happens to this little girl, don't blame me. Of course. Superintendent Zhang agreed readily. Immediately, the superintendent took out a jade plate and handed it to Goei Batsao. After you activate this jade plate, you can enter the barrier in front. If you encounter any danger, you can crush the jade plate and be teleported out. Goei Batsao pretended to thank him, then turned around and ran toward the barrier at the entrance of the valley. Ding Wenru and the other two wanted to ask a few questions, but Goei Batsao ran so fast that the three of them couldn't chase after her. They could only look at her retreating figure with a puzzled expression. Chapter 5543. What is Goei Batsao looking for? If it wasn't for the fear of being exposed, Goei Batsao would have been jumping around. It was indeed the smartest grass in the world. Even if the darn girl didn't agree, it could still achieve its wish. However, when Goei Batsao arrived at the entrance of the valley, he realized that he had no way to activate the jade token in his hand. He could only say in a low voice, "Help me go in and find what I want. I will definitely not mistreat you." Yun Chujio sneered, "Go away, ba, what right do you have to command me? Do you think that you can do whatever you want just because you can seize control of your body? Let me tell you, I will fight with you today. At worst, it will be a life and death struggle. No, people will die and grass will die." Goei Batsao did not expect Yun Chujio's attitude to be so tough this time. It felt a little regretful, but it was useless to regret. It said humbly, "Great no, little ancestor, please help me this time. I promise that I will never take control of your body again." Yun Chujio snorted and did not say anything. Goei Batsao said a lot of nice things, but Yun Chujio did not intend to let go. Goei Batsao was going crazy. Goei Batsao gritted its teeth and said, "If you help me get what I want, I will tell you where I came from." Yun Chujio was a little tempted. She and the pretty boy could not find out the origin of Goei Batsao. If they could find out what the hell it was, maybe they could get it out of the Dantian. "Is what you said true?" "Of course. If I lie to you, you can just torture me when the time comes." "I won't say anything else," Goei Batsao said resolutely. "Alright, just this once. If there's a next time, Hing." Seeing that Yun Chujio agreed, Goei Batsao quickly returned the control of her body to Yun Chujio and began to act cute. Yun Chujio took a deep breath and activated the jade token in her hand. The enchantment cracked open and Yun Chujio walked in. The scene inside was not much different from the outside, but there were many stones scattered on the ground. Yun Chujio suddenly remembered what Goei Batsao was looking for. She could only return the control of her body to Goei Batsao and asked, "What are you looking for?" Goei Batsao could not hide its excitement and said, "Looking for a rock, looking for a rock." Yun Chujio. In the past, she could understand that this fellow was looking for herbs, but now, he was looking for a rock. What did that mean? What kind of rock? Can you sense the exact location? Goei Batsao shook its head like a rattle drum. "I'm still a little baby, so I'm not sure where exactly. If there's a suspicious area, you can sniff each rock." Yun Chujio. Sniff the rocks one by one? Was she a dog? Forget it. When the time comes, you'll just give it control of the body and let it sniff by itself. After Yun Chujio took back control of the body, she carefully walked into the valley. She couldn't be careless. Any demon beast that came out from here would have a higher cultivation level than her. Although she could bluff, not all demon beasts would be fooled. Fortunately, the demonic beasts at the edge were probably all killed by the examinees. Yun Chujio walked for half a day and did not encounter any powerful demonic beasts. Yun Chujio was about to eat something when Goei Batsao began to tremble in excitement. It was obvious that it had discovered a suspected target. Yun Chujio turned her head to look. There were a few stones scattered not far away. It would be good if she could find the target among them. That way, she could crush the jade token and leave. Chapter 5544. Yun Chujio walked over and wanted to let the Goei Batsao sniff on its own. However, considering that the Goei Batsao could not protect itself after possessing it, she had no choice but to sniff the nearest rock with a cold expression. The Goei Batsao waved its leaves continuously, indicating that it was not this rock. Yun Chujio could only sniff the other rocks in turn. In the end, all of them were rejected by the Goei Batsao. Yun Chujio was furious. "Do you even have a clue? Since there wasn't a single piece, why did you let her sniff it?" Next, the Goei Batsao let Yun Chujio sniff a lot of rocks, but none of them were correct. Hei Shinjio was so angry that she was about to explode. She even suspected that the Goei Batsao was deliberately toying with her. She used her spiritual sense to scold the Goei Batsao, and the Goei Batsao kept acting cute. It was also very wronged. It was only a baby now, so its ability was limited. After a while, Go-Wei Batsao found another rock. Yun Chujio bit the back of her teeth and moved closer to one of the rocks to smell it. At this time, she heard messy footsteps. Yun Chujio's heart moved. Could it be that there were examinees coming? She didn't want to cause any trouble. Coincidentally, the rocks here were bigger, so she hid behind one of the rocks. She restrained her aura and looked outside through the gap between the two rocks. The first 7 men ran over. Their faces were filled with panic. Following closely behind were more than 10 men. Don't go too far. If you force me again, I'll crush the jade token and go out. One of the 7 men said while holding the jade token in his hand. Crush the jade token? Then go ahead and do it. No one will stop you. One of the men who chased after him said arrogantly. The person who had spoken at the beginning clenched his teeth and crushed the jade token immediately. However, he found out in despair that he was not teleported out. The other 6 people also crushed the jade token in their hands when they saw that, but they were not teleported out. What's going on? What's going on? It's very simple. Because Brother Bai has activated the void-ending talisman just now, your teleportation jade tokens will naturally lose their function. Cut the crap. Hand over the monster pills and medicinal herbs that you have obtained. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave this chaotic stone valley alive. The 7 people's faces were filled with grief and indignation. There were only 2 days left for the assessment. If they handed over the things in their hands, they would have no hope of entering the 10 Directions Academy. However, they did not dare not hand them over. After all, nothing was more important than their lives. Immediately, the 7 of them handed over their things and ran away in a sorry state amidst the laughter of those people. Brother Bai, you are still far-sighted. We have already robbed over 100 examinees. Not only will we be able to pass the second round, but our ranking will also be far ahead. This will be of great benefit to the 3rd round of the assessment. Of course, Brother Bai is the famous moon-treading young master. If it was not for taking care of us, Brother Bai would not have to go through so much trouble. That makes sense. With your cultivation and family background, it wouldn't be a problem for you to take the top spot. Now, you even took out something as good as the void-denying talisman for us. We must follow your lead in the future. Yun Chujio's gaze fell on the moon-treading young master. Her pupils constricted. Why did this person look familiar? But she couldn't remember who exactly he looked like. Just then, someone asked curiously, Brother Bai, I heard that your aunt's cousin has returned? Did he apply for the 10 Directions Academy or the Divine Enlightenment Academy? Chapter 55-45 Yun Chujio's guess young master Ta Yu's face immediately darkened. He's just a bastard. He's not worthy to be my cousin. The person who had spoken earlier saw his displeased expression and quickly echoed, yes, he's just a bastard who can't stand the limelight. It said that he grew up on a lower continent. No matter which academy he applied to, he wouldn't be able to pass. Young Master Ta Yu's expression softened slightly, and he said with a hint of ridicule, Grandfather was afraid that I would be disadvantageous to him, so he made him apply for the Divine Enlightenment Academy. However, a trash like him wouldn't be able to pass at all. Brother Bai is right. He can't be compared to you at all. He's just a bastard. This time, the top scorer of the 10 Directions Academy is none other than you. Brother Bai, you must protect us in the future. Of course, you are all my people. I will naturally protect you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have thought of ways to get you a good ranking in the 2nd round of the assessment. As the crowd spoke, they escorted that young master moonstepping away. He must have gone to find the next target to rob. Yun Chujio suddenly widened her eyes. She remembered who this young master moonstepping looked like. He actually looked somewhat like Lan Luochen. Could it be that the bastard they were talking about was Lan Luochen? The old fox of the Lan family said that Lan Luchen's maternal family was very powerful. It seemed that young Master Moontreading was from an extraordinary background. She was most likely right. This guy was relieved. It would be great if Lan Dregs went to the Divine Enlightenment Academy, so he would not pester her like a dog's skin plaster. She did not feel much about the robbery of young Master Ta Yu's group. After all, She had done the same thing before. On the path of cultivation, the strong preyed on the weak. The strong were respected. Those who were robbed could only admit that they were unlucky. Even if they went out and made a fuss about it, they would not be pitied. Instead, they would be ridiculed. After those people left, Yun Chujio continued to smell the stones bitterly. In the end, there was still no rock that Goei Batsao was looking for in this rock. Yun Chujio could only continue to walk forward. Perhaps her luck had run out, and she had just walked out when she met a demonic beast that looked very similar to a bear. There was a star-shaped mark between the brows of the demonic bear, and the color was very bright. Yun Chujio had heard from Ding that the brighter the color, the higher the level. This demonic bear was at least a level 8 star mark, and it might even be a level 9. Yun Chujio wished she could tear the Goei Batsao and chew it up. How could her small arms and legs be a match for this thing? Although she might be able to escape with all her might, this way, the commotion would definitely be huge. It would be bad if her secret that could not be seen was exposed. Therefore she had to outsmart it. Just as this fellow was thinking about how to trick the bear in front of him, he did not expect more than a dozen people to run over from afar. One of the women said in surprise, "It's actually the golden-eyed desolate bear, Go." In a short moment, the dozen people ran in front of Yun Chujio and surrounded the golden-eyed desolate bear. Yun Chujio found these people too pleasing to the eye. They came at the right time. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and did not leave. These dozen people were clearly a small group. Following them was a guarantee of her life. Only a fool would leave. Hence, this fellow threw a few fireballs at the golden-eyed desolate bear. Although it was useless, it meant that she had contributed. The golden-eyed desolate bear's skin was rough and thick. Even though it was surrounded by so many people, it still managed to hold on for more than an hour. In the end, it let out an unwilling howl and died. Chapter 55-46 I am not an examinee. Yun Chujio looked at the dead bear on the ground, feeling proud in her heart. Little fellow, you still want to eat me? If you have the ability, then come and eat me. Those people dug out the golden-eyed desolate bear's inner core and put it away. After that, they also put away the golden-eyed desolate bear's corpse. Seeing that they did not discuss the ownership of the demon core, Yun Chujio was even more certain that they were a small team. She estimated that they would split the spoils of war evenly in the end. At this time, those people looked at Yun Chujio and were all stunned. The 9th layer of spiritual destruction? What kind of joke was this? Wasn't the 10 Directions Academy only able to apply for the exam above the 5th layer of divine enlightenment? How did she get the qualification to apply? Yun Chujio said with gratitude, "Everyone, I'm not an examinee, I'm an audit student. The Kai department asked me to come in and help him find some things. Can I come with you? I know it's a bit abrupt, but my cultivation is really too low. If I don't follow you, I definitely won't be able to complete the mission. I promise I won't implicate you. If I run into trouble, they'll take the initiative to crush the jade plate. I definitely won't drag you down." Those people looked doubtful. Director Kai asked her to come in and help him find something? To send such a trash in, was Director Kai crazy? Yun Chujio was afraid that they wouldn't believe her. She took out her jade token to show that what she said was true. She remembered what she had seen before and lowered her voice. "In order to thank you for taking me in, I'll tell you a secret. That moon-treading young master gathered more than a dozen people to look for the target of the robbery. They have already robbed more than 100 examinees. And that moon-treading young master has the absolute space talisman in his hands. Once it is activated, the jade token in our hands will no longer be of use. So everyone must be careful." Everyone's expressions were a little complicated. What did she mean by thanking them for taking her in? They had not agreed yet, all right? However, the matter that she had mentioned was very useful to them. They had not expected that moon-treading young master would actually have the absolute space talisman. If they met him, it would be better for them to avoid it. They discussed it and decided to take Yun Chujio in, because they felt that auditors usually had a background. Moreover, it was Supervisor Kai who let her in. Perhaps she had some relationship with Supervisor Kai. Moreover, It wasn't a burden to take her with him. At most, he would let her crush the jade token. Okay, just follow us. What's your name? Where are you from? The woman who spoke earlier asked. My name is Yen Qingqing. I ascended from the Chongshao continent, Yun Chujio said with a smile. Both the woman and the others were stunned. Ascended from the Chongshao continent? Since when did the audience of the 10 Directions Academy have such low requirements? Just as everyone was in shock, Yun Chujio asked with a smile, Ladies and gentlemen, what are your names? Everyone was a little embarrassed to be called by her, so they all reported their names. The woman who asked the question earlier was called Han Binger. She asked tentatively, You ascended from the Chongshao continent. Do you have any relatives in the Divine Enlightenment continent? Yun Chujio naturally knew the purpose of her question. She said vaguely, I was recommended by Superintendent Zhang. By the way, Sister Han, is that you tread young master very powerful? Han Binger heard her words and exchanged glances with the others. Since it was recommended by the superintendent, he must have some background. She did not continue to ask. Instead, she said, Young Master Ta Yu's name is Bai Yuechen. He is the eldest grandson of the head of the Bai family. He is already at the 8th level of the Divine Enlightenment. He is a popular candidate for the top spot this time. Yun Chujio was about to say something when the Goei Batsao in her dantian suddenly began to wave its leaves excitedly, indicating that it had made a new discovery. Yun Chujio looked around suspiciously. There were no rocks here. Why was the Goei Batsao so excited? Chapter 55-47, Wind and Moon, unparalleled in the world. Yun Chujio used her spiritual sense to suppress Goei Batsao and heard Han Binger continue. Wind and Moon, unparalleled in the world. This is the famous 4th young master of the Divine Enlightenment continent. The 4 of them not only have an illustrious family background, but they also have extraordinary appearances and excellent natural endowments. As a result, no one dares to provoke them. Yun Chujio showed a cooperative look of surprise, but in her heart, she pursed her lips. Bai Yuechen only looked so, and there was no way he could be compared to the pretty boy, the black chicken head, and the blue dregs. He was only slightly stronger than Enfeng. It was actually difficult to live up to a famous reputation. The other 3 young masters probably only had a false reputation, and they were just relying on their good family background. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, the Goei Batsao in her dantian began to act cutely again. Moreover, Yun Chujio had a feeling that if she ignored it, this fellow would probably take over the Goei Bakeo's nest again. Yun Chujio's feelings for the Goei Batsao were a little complicated. At the beginning, she naturally hated it to death. However, she had to admit that this fellow had helped her a lot. It really made people love and hate it. She realized that Goei Batsao had been wagging its tail again recently. She had to think of a way to control Goei Batsao. Otherwise, Goei Batsao would take over Goei Bakeo's nest. It was really hateful. Hei Shinjio gritted her teeth. They'll let you prance around for a few days first. We'll see. At this time, the sky had begun to darken. Han Binger and the others decided to camp on the spot. Yun Chujio found an excuse and went to a place a little further away from the group. She then asked Goei Batsao, There are no stones there. Why are you so excited? Have you suffered from epilepsy? Goei Batsao felt that Yun Chujio's words were not pleasant to hear, but this fellow had a favor to ask of her now, so he still answered eagerly, Yes. Although there are no stones on the ground, there are stones on the ground. Help me dig them out now and smell them. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. You want me to dig stones in front of so many people? Anyway, didn't you lie to them that you came in to look for something? Isn't that normal? If you are afraid of being tired, I can dig it out myself. I am very hardworking, Goei Batsao said with a smile. Yun Chujio felt that she must have done something outrageous in her past life. Otherwise, why would she be involved in such a terrible thing? She resisted the urge to slap Goei Batsao to death and squeezed out 2 words from between her teeth. Okay, I'll dig it. Goei Batsao immediately said obsequiously, Don't worry. If you help me, I'll repay you well in the future. As the saying goes, don't forget each other when you're rich. Yun Chujio, this is not the same dog, okay? You illiterate grass. When Yun Chujio returned to the campsite, Han Binger and the others were eating. They were basically eating biscuits and buns. When Han Binger saw Yun Chujio, she handed her a bun enthusiastically. Yun Chujio did not refuse. After thanking her, she took it and ate it. Yun Chujio glanced around and felt like she was cursing a dog in her heart. Han Binger and the others moved very quickly. They had already built quite a number of tents, and the place Goei Batsao mentioned was under those tents. Was she going to tear down their tents? It was best to let these people take the initiative to move the tents to another place. What should she do? This guy rolled his eyes and finally came up with a bad idea. While everyone was chatting and laughing, Hei Shinjio let out a small flame. In an instant, the tents were set on fire. Chapter 55-48. Strive to make a perfect black heart. Grass. Han Binger and the others saw that the tent was on fire and quickly went to put out the fire. However, it was still too late. Most of the tents had been burned. Everyone could not help but wonder, why was this tent on fire all of a sudden? Could it be that there were sparks from the bonfire that splashed onto the tent? That was not right. Their tents were all fireproof. Normal fire would not be able to burn them at all. What the hell? Everyone couldn't help but feel a little scared. If it wasn't because it was night, they wouldn't have stayed here. Ladies and gentlemen, this fire is really strange. I'll go over and see if I can find the reason, Yun Chujio said. Han Binger quickly stopped her. Sister Qingqing, just as you said, this fire is very strange. You'd better not go over. Yun Chujio straightened her back. Sister Han, if we can't find the reason, everyone will definitely panic. I can't eat for free. I have to make some contributions. Don't worry, I will be extra careful. Yun Chujio said and walked over without hesitation. Then, she began to pretend to look at the scene of the fire. The way Han Binger and the others looked at her suddenly changed. Although this Yen Qingcheng's cultivation was a little useless, she was a good person. It was not in vain for them to take her in. Goei Batsao shook its leaves. Tieske, this darn girl was really insidious. She was full of evil ideas. It seemed that in the future, it would have to learn more from her and strive to be a perfect black-hearted grass. Yun Chujio looked around, then took out the pickaxe and began to dig the stones. Han Binger stood in the distance and asked curiously, Sister Qingqing, what are you doing? Yun Chujio said without changing her expression, since there's nothing unusual around here, maybe there's something wrong down here. I'll dig it open and take a look. Everyone believed her, so no one said anything. They just watched Yun Chujio dig the soil. Yun Chujio dug a few times and found a few stones. However, they were all denied by Goei Batsao. Hei Shinjio was so angry that she almost died. Was it trying to tire the two idiots? She was so angry. Goei Batsao was also a little guilty. It was not intentional. At worst, it could just compensate the smelly girl in the future. Yun Chujio had no choice but to say to Han Binger and the others in embarrassment, I thought there would be fire marrow or fire-type demonic insects, but I didn't find them. Maybe I was thinking too much. Han Binger and the rest did not blame her. Instead, they comforted her. Hei Xinjia's remaining conscience could not help but hurt a little. She decided to make it up to Han Binger and the rest if there was a chance. The next morning, Han Binger and the rest had breakfast and discussed their next step. Although we have a decent number of trophies, the strength of the other examinees is not to be underestimated. In addition, there are robberies. So, to be on the safe side, we should try our best to get as many points as possible. That's right. The last 2 days are very crucial. We cannot slack off. If you ask me, we should still walk further inside. If we encounter any danger, at most, we can just crush the jade token. After everyone discussed, they decided to continue to move deeper into the rocky valley. Yun Chujio naturally could not wish for more. She eagerly followed Han Binger and the others to continue searching for rocks. Han Binger quickly realized that this student was fond of all kinds of rocks. As long as she saw a rock, she would go over and touch it. Han Binger asked curiously, Sister Qingqing, could it be that the thing that Supervisor Kai asked you to look for is a rock? Chapter 5549 was simple. Yun Chujio chuckled. Sister Han, you are so smart. I have some research on mineral prospecting, so the Kai department asked me to come in and look for an ore. But now it seems that I can't find it. You know that I have just ascended, so I don't know much about the ores in the Divine Enlightenment continent. How can I find it? I think the Kai department wants me to come in and broaden my horizons. Hearing this, no one doubted what she said. Moreover, they imagined that Yen Qingqing must have a background, so the CAI department found a random excuse to let her in. After they imagined it, their attitude toward Yun Chujio became better. Seeing this, Hei Xinjiu heaved a sigh of relief and cursed Goei Batsao in her heart. Along the way, they encountered a few demon beasts, but their grades were not high. They killed them without much effort. Han Binger sighed. These demon cores are not worth a few points. It would be great if we could find some high-grade herbs or meet more demon beasts. Yun Chujio's eyes flickered. She wanted to meet more demon beasts? That was easy. She let Goei Batsao release a bit of its fragrance and soon attracted a lot of demon beasts. There weren't any particularly high-level demon beasts in the surroundings. In addition, the Goei Batsao released its fragrance intermittently, so Han Binger and the others could handle it. Han Binger and the others were so happy that they couldn't close their mouths. According to this trend, not only could they pass the second round of assessment, but their ranking would also be very high. Just as they were in high spirits, a group of people came from afar. It was Bai Yuechen and the others. Yun Chujio saw that there were many more people behind Bai Yuechen, and she frowned slightly. The so-called bad intentions, could it be that they wanted to rob Han Binger and the others? Han Binger and the others were also shocked and immediately became vigilant. Hey, did you kill a lot of demonic beasts just now? We drove them here. Hurry up and hand over your storage rings, or else don't blame us for not being polite. A man said arrogantly. Han Binger's face was full of anger as she said, Fan Chi, are you being unreasonable? Those demonic beasts came here by themselves, how could you drive them here? The man called Fan Chi said with a fake smile, Sister Bing, you don't know about this. Brother Bei's family is well educated, so a mere beast taming technique is naturally not a problem. Don't worry, as long as you follow me, I promise to let you pass the second round of the assessment. Han Binger was so angry that her face flushed red. Shameless. These things were painstakingly obtained by us. We won't hand them over to you. Fan Chi wanted to tease them a little more, but Bai Yuechen said unhappily, Fan Chi, why do you talk so much nonsense? Fan Chi embarrassedly smiled and then said arrogantly, do you want to hand them over or not? If you don't hand them over, we can only take action. Brother Bai has already activated the void-ending talisman, so don't even think about crushing the jade token. Han Binger and the others were both angry and afraid. Although there were more than 10 of them, there were more than 20 people like Bai Yuechen. Moreover, they did not dare to really do anything to Bai Yuechen. However, they were really unwilling to hand it over just like that. That was the 10 Directions Academy's enrollment qualification that they had dreamed of. They wanted to run, but they were surrounded by Bai Yuechen and the others. They were afraid that they would not be able to escape. At this moment, the roars of beasts came one after another from afar, and they seemed to be approaching this place. Chapter 5550 was definitely not wrong this time. Bai Yuechen's expression immediately changed. What was going on? Could it be that there was a beast tied at the last minute? The others immediately panicked. At this moment, Yun Chujio cried out in alarm, Beast tied. It must be a beast tied. She recklessly chose a direction and rushed over. The few lackeys of Bai Yuechen were a little distracted and allowed Yun Chujio to rush out. Han Binger and the others immediately rushed out from the gap. Bai Yuechen gritted his teeth in anger, but when he heard the beast roar approaching, he did not bother to chase after Han Binger and the others. He quickly took his men and left. Yun Chujio and Han Binger ran for some distance, But when they saw that Bai Yuechen and the others did not chase after them, they stopped. They turned their ears to listen, and when the beast roars stopped, they immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Sister Qingqing, thank you very much. If it wasn't for your cleverness, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to escape, Han Binger said gratefully. Yun Chujio chuckled. It's not that I'm clever. I was really afraid of a beast tide, so it was just a fluke. Everyone also laughed. No matter what, they had to thank Yan Qingqing for this matter. Han Binger and the others discussed. Their spoils of war were enough to pass the assessment. There was no need for them to risk their lives here. Hence, they decided to crush their jade tokens and leave. Sister Qingqing, you should leave with us. It's too dangerous for you to stay here alone, Han Binger advised. Yun Chujio felt very bitter. She wanted to leave, but there was a worrisome Goebatsao in her dantian. So, she said, you guys go out first. I'll take a look. If there's any danger, I can crush the jade token. Han Binger tried to persuade her, but seeing that she insisted, she couldn't say much. She could only tell her to be careful of Yun Yun. Then she crushed the jade token and was teleported out. Yun Chujio sighed and continued to look for the stone according to the direction indicated by Go Wei Ba Cao. Go Wei Ba, it can't be that the stone you're looking for isn't here, right? Why don't we go out as well? As long as you agree to go out, they'll feed you some more medicinal pills to satisfy your cravings. You go out obediently, they'll let Xiao Mogu out to talk to you. Unfortunately, no matter how much Yun Chujio threatened and enticed, Go Wei Ba Cao was determined to find the stone. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. Damn it, it wasn't some wood and stone miracle in the dream of the Red Chamber. Why was this damn broken grass looking for the stone? She had no choice but to continue searching carefully. On the way, she encountered some examinees. Some of them ignored her, while others wanted to rob her. However, after she revealed her identity as an audit student, those people dispelled their thoughts. They only looked at her with more or less disdain in their eyes. The audit student was nothing more than a qualification bought with money by relying on her family background. She could never hide the fact that she was a waste. Yun Chujio did not care about these gazes at all. There was only one thought in her mind, and that was to quickly find that broken stone. In the blink of an eye, it was the last day of the assessment. If she did not crush the jade token before midnight, she would have to walk out. Goe Batsao was a little agitated, and even Yun Chujio was a little anxious. Before dawn, she began to search according to the direction Goe Batsao had pointed out. Just after midnight, Go Weiba suddenly became excited and even directly occupied Yun Chujio's body. He shouted, "Found it! Found it! Quick, let's go! This time, we won't be wrong." Chapter 55-51 This stone is my mother. Yun Chujio did not have the time to pack up the Goeibatsao. After regaining control of her body, she ran in the direction that the Goeibatsao told her to. However, when this fellow saw the scene in front of her, he wished that he could cut the Goeibatsao into 1,000 pieces. She was currently in a cave. In front of her was a python that was as thick as a water tank. There was a bright red crescent mark between its brows. The python stared at Yun Chujio with a pair of cold vertical eyes, as if it would devour her in the next moment. A moon-mark demon beast. And it was a high-level moon-mark demon beast. Under the python's coiled body was a nest of snake eggs. Among them was a round stone. It was probably the stone Goeibatsao was looking for. Yun Chujio used her spiritual sense to ask. Goeibatsao shook its leaves excitedly. The answer was obvious. This was the stone it was looking for. Yun Chujio was furious. The original stone was only the size of a fist, but it had let her smell countless large stones. Damn Goeibatsao. However, the most important thing now was how to get the stone. If she fought it head-on, she would not be the python's opponent even if she used all her methods. She rolled her eyes. The reason why the python did not attack her immediately was probably because it was worried about its eggs. She would start with these eggs. She whispered a few words to Goeibatsao. Goeibatsao immediately shook its leaves to show that it understood. Yun Chujio smiled dryly at the python and said, "Well, I'm just passing by. Goodbye." After saying that, the python turned around and ran. At the critical moment when the snake eggs were hatching, the python didn't chase after Yunchujio. Instead, it just stared at her coldly as she left the cave. At this moment, the python was stunned to find that the snake eggs it was protecting had started to fight to get out and roll away. It was simply stunned. What was going on? It quickly pulled the snake eggs back gently, but it could not stop the snake eggs from rolling away. Unknowingly, the python was lured out of the cave. The python soon discovered Hei Shinjio outside the cave. It was so angry that it hissed. However, it was in a hurry to protect the eggs, so it could not deal with Hei Shinjio. At the same time, Goei Batsao had sneaked into the cave. It excitedly wrapped the stone with its leaves and flew out of the cave. Yun Chujio saw that Goei Batsao had succeeded and ran away. Although the python wanted to chase after Yun Chujio and kill her, it looked at the scattered snake eggs on the ground and could only grit its teeth and bring the snake eggs back to the cave to continue incubating the eggs. When they reached a hidden place, Yun Chujio did not even have the chance to see what the stone was before her body was snatched away by Goei Batsao. Goei Batsao held the stone and was so excited that it was twitching. "My precious darling! I didn't expect to see you again. Woo-woo, the heavens really have eyes." Yun Chujio curled her lips. Could this stone be Goei Bakeo's little lover? Great, this Goei Batsao that was abandoned all along. Since she had this stone, why did she still hook up with Xiao Mogu? Goei Batsao sensed Yun Chujio's thoughts and explained, "What do you know? This stone is my mother." Yun Chujio, why did it feel like she was struck by lightning? This stone was Goei Bakeo's mother? No, it should be my father. That's not right either. In any case, without this stone, there wouldn't be me. I'm warning you in the future, be more respectful to my parents, or else I won't be polite to you. Goei Batsao said fiercely. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.